Hello, hello. How is everyone doing today? I hope you're all happy, enjoying life, having fun, playing lots of Seven from Nine Mountains, all that good stuff. On my end, things are going fine. I've been enjoying the slowly reducing temperatures around here. Allows me to spend some more time thinking, and I spent that time on bashing my head against things which have not come to fruition. Mainly around trying to figure out ways to rebalance combat. A lot of the higher level gameplay tends to sort of run into a limit of like feasibility for a lot of builds. You either completely fill up your defensive aspects every single technique, or you die. And that is... I'd like to eventually move away from that to something that's a bit more gradual, something where you can actually feel the transition and can see yourself either losing or winning or pulling it back from the edge, that kind of thing. However, it's a big change. You know, if I'm going to actually implement something like that, massive changes. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Hello, welcome. So all of that has been taking up my week of trying to figure something out. It has not turned into any things we'll release, so I have wrapped back round to looking at the crafting tournaments, and that's what we'll play about with today. That's the other half of the tournament work. The combat tournaments went out on Monday. And then we'll do the first version of the crafting tournaments, so like the simple one. And then we'll move on to something else, most likely the sex system. That will then have requirements of more tournaments, or more variety of tournaments. So we'll sort of do more tournament stuff in the future. But yeah, for now, let's get to the other half, the crafting side, done. So, here, that's not what I want. I want a new crafting tournament. So, same entrance as usual, a nice, here's your prizes view, essentially exactly the same as the normal tournament, and mostly the same UI. We have the disc of the contestants that are then with lots drawn, and as you well know, this is just the first draft built by Claude that we'll need to refine. As you can see, things are a bit janky. It doesn't even have custom art yet, but we can pick a straw, we'll pick that one, and it will order us, and then it's going to animate around as people do crafting. And this here is how the whole system works. It's quite similar to what we discussed when we were originally thinking about the crafting tournament, which I think was last stream, where you have the different weighted modes that you can pick to craft at. I did originally have the whole judges bench. Actually, one second. I need to post that live. Give me a sec. There we go. Hopefully people can join us. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yes, right, yes. So last time we discussed having the crafting tournament have this kind of like judge's bench, and you pick which judge you want to craft for, and all that kind of stuff. I did originally have that. In fact, do I have... I have some concept art for that I can bring up on screen. Hello, welcome. Yeah, there we go. Let's see. Can I add this? Just Window capture? Window capture, that's the one we want. I want that. Okay, so this is the concept that I was playing around with. This is how it, I guess, used to look, where you had this judge's bench, this top arc here, and you had the contestants scattered around, and they got assigned to each node, and then you'd pick one, and then it would continue. It just felt kind of bad. It was difficult to represent who was doing what. It was difficult to represent a kind of progression. There was not really much animations that we could do. And also this bench here does not scale nicely because it would need custom art. And the number of harmonies available in the game will change. We might add more in the future. It will extend. Mods could add them. And of course, the other type, which is the condition type crafting, would have a different number. So, though it was a cool idea, practically it turned out to be kind of just a pain to make good. So, this is what we currently have instead. We have essentially all of the contestants are crowded around the set of things in the middle, and it will animate around based on the lots that have been drawn to place them into an order. So you can see here, this character has got 16 points, 21, 13, and we have 0 because we haven't gone yet. And due to what's been selected, there's different numbers on each of these. So let's see if we can just cheat a little bit. Give me every item, please. Now what's the most overpowered? Probably Golden Insight Cauldron is going to be the easiest to just win instantly with. And the strongest flame we have available to us. That's a pretty good flame. Might be slightly overpowered. Sure. That's a way overpowered flame. I need to nerf that flame before we release it. Okay, cool. So we have that. We can see Spiritual Resonance as a ×2 multiplier, so we get twice the points for it. And I have nothing equipped. Less than ideal. Well, we'll just keep hitting this and hope we do fine. But it gave us 24 points apparently. I need to actually look into how these are calculated because I have no idea why it would give me 24. As you can see, it sort of animates around the contestants, and it will do 3 loops. So there's actually you'll craft 3 times. That'll place you in your standings. Sorry, 1 second. Yes. So there's 2 new items that you can get from the tournament. There's a new flame and a new cauldron. The new cauldron as well. So the new flame is the one we discussed, which you'll get a little preview of here. Why not? That's what you're here for, spoilers. It will essentially make you stronger based on the key you spend. So you can stack up some very large multipliers based on how much key you actually do spend, which is a pretty cool one, I think. I think it's awesome, at least. And our cauldron is equally cool. Where is it? It's this one. Do we not have a... I guess we don't have for that. Yeah, there we go. Sealed vessel cauldron. This one is very weird. Essentially, you have massively reduced stability cost multipliers, but you can never restore your maximum stability. And it always goes down. There is no infinite loops. You'll have exactly 60 actions to finish the craft. At most. Is it good? I guess we'll find out if people enjoy it or not. I just noticed that half the thing is off screen. 1 second. There you go. Now you can read it. So this one here is something that will be interesting. It's one where we'll probably increase the multipliers in some fashion to make it so that it does become viable. Essentially, the idea would be it's one where people go, I don't want to have to grind out for ages. I just want to smash out a craft. And you can essentially ignore stability costs. You just need to go as fast as you can. Maybe the stability cost multiplier should be like 5%, or maybe even lower. Maybe just make it remove stability costs from gear entirely. And essentially you're just time limited. You have 60 actions. How high can you get in 60 with no restrictions? But we'll see. It's something we can play around with. But yeah, anyway, those are the kind of rewards you'll be able to get from the tournaments. But yeah, we need to do the tournaments themselves. So currently I've only really experimented with the Harmony approach. Yep, essentially adds max stab loss to everything. So focus and things like that gain max stability loss. But yeah, it should be an interesting one. So yeah, mechanically we need to fix this. Like actually make it more visible about how the points work and everything, the animations, and then also what we'll do is we'll run this through something like Nano Banana to get some ideas for visuals of how the like plate should look, and maybe we want like a raised pedestal in the middle here for the things to be on, so it looks a bit more interesting. A variety of different bits and pieces to maybe try to make this visually more exciting to look at. Maybe even have some like border art, like animations and things like we have for doing a formation. Yeah, all of this dialogue is nonsense as well. This all needs to be reviewed. Again, this is just the first of the first drafts. So it needs a whole bit of iteration. And of course, I don't know how many individual lines have been written for this. Let me have a quick look. I should probably... Is it this one? Yeah, okay, cool. The crafting tournament chatter. A fair few lines here, as you can see. We'd have to do some modifications. Yeah, write some stuff that's actually good. And inside the crafting as well, we need to have good chatter lines that reflect what actually happens too. Essentially the same as you do in combat, where the crowd comments on what techniques you use and what state you've put your combat into. I don't know if anyone's looked at this, but they do actually do things like if you have high blood corruption, they'll comment on that, or if you have lots of thunder, or if you manage to push like one blossom type over another pretty high. There's unique lines for a lot of those. There's so many new lines for all of that. Where actually did I put all of those? Let's see if I can remember. I don't think it's this file. I think it's a different one. Yeah, so like there's 300-ish lines of background chatter and announcer chatter for the tournament screen, and there's a ton of other stuff for being actually in combat, which is combat commentary. It's probably this one, yeah. As you can see, we have a ton of stuff like high momentum, firing off a finisher, lots of weapons. If one of your weapons breaks, if you've got like very high oh, actually, sorry, this is the droplet buff, I think. So there is a ton of unique dialogue lines for hopefully the majority of the things you could possibly do in a combat. And I'm sure some builds that people run will have essentially all of these active at once and have the possibility of talking about the lot. So yeah, it should hopefully feel like you don't see repeated lines, just because of how much variety is in there. So it's about, for the combat tournaments, it was about 1,000 new lines of dialogue, which is quite a significant number. Anyway, crafting. So, what are we going to be looking at? First things first. What are these numbers? So, interesting. Yeah, so there's two things about how the multipliers work here. So there's essentially a constantly building value on the multipliers that make them more valuable if no one selects them, but get reset when they're picked. And each of these characters should have a bias towards certain harmony types, so they will more likely to pick that one. So it's not just they pick the highest one all the time. That should hopefully reflect the way that a player plays, where even if, say, Spiritual Resonance, Inscribed Patterns is the highest number, they may not pick it because they don't like doing it and they don't feel like they can have big numbers. So there is hope. That's what I want to attempt to represent, is that the bias of the player reflected onto the NPCs. And yeah, also would need to think a little bit about, is 3 rounds of crafting a high harmony thing too much? Because that's a lot of crafting most likely, because those crafts can last like 5 to 10 minutes potentially, even longer if you grind it out with a close to infinite build. So maybe we want to say it's only 1 round and you just get to pick it. I think 3 feels more like a tournament. Yeah, currently it's you craft 3 times, so it does 3 full loops. And then you, based on how many points you got, you're then ranked. So yeah, it feels like the right number, but I guess you'd only really know if we actually go and do all that crafting and see how it feels. I mean, the fact that it will have unique prizes for your placements. We don't have a winner podium at the moment, so we do need to have those like out here, so you can see what you get for the different ranks. As you can see, it just says this is what you get for being rank 3, but it doesn't actually say what would be below or above that, which would be important to have, especially given that the recipes are the big drive, unique recipes. And that's another thing I think just thought of. The tournament recipes currently are missable, and that's something that we want to change. They are only available in the tournament, so if you go past the realm where you can do the tournament, you're out of luck. That is no longer accessible to you ever. And they do actually have scaling from, for every realm, so we could have that recipe for the other realms. Yeah, I think I just want to make it work like the combat tournament does, where it has the standing things, the final placements bit off to the right of the board, so you can look at it that way. And then once the tournament finishes, the characters animate to that board, and then with the camera following it, and that's where the final placements look. So it kind of is all on the screen. I mean, it might be just me, but I feel that makes it a bit more tactile, that the fact that all of these elements are on screen and you can move around and see them whenever you feel like. I mean, most players will stay at the default view, which would be like this, focusing on the current character, which will be you, and then allowing the camera auto focus to control where their viewport is. Okay, right, yes. Let's actually have a look at this code for the first time ever. It's always exciting, being like, so what did it do? How did it implement all this stuff? And how badly terrible and needing rework is it? So, we have ourselves the crafting tournament. You know what? Maybe we should actually look at the crafting tournament definition so we know what's been implemented inside of it. Come on. Fine, I'll scroll to find it. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's all about the little things that make people sort of feel that the game is good. Having everything be clickable and draggable and interactable. I mean, that's why they added stuff like, I don't know if any of you played Hearthstone, but they have the board. It's a card game for those who haven't played Hearthstone. It's a card game made by Blizzard, and they have this board that the game takes part on, and then just random bits around the board are clickable. Does it do anything? No, but you can click it and stuff, and it animates and it makes little noises and stuff like that. People love that kind of stuff. It makes it feel more dynamic and interesting when you can just poke it. That kind of stuff is so good to add. I'd love to have more of that in the game. Just, it's time investment, right? I mean, I could spend months just adding random bits you can click on, but it's kind of... If I had the available bandwidth to do so, you can bet it would have loads of that crap in. Yeah, I think inventory is probably one of the big ones where I think it's a bad place to add it, because the inventory is such a key aspect to how a lot of games work that overcomplicating it with trying to be immersive just makes it feel clunky and annoying and frustrating. Especially when a game is built around itemization. Like, if I'm going to say Path of Exile, for example. A lot of the game is built around getting drops, but then you have this limited inventory, and you're like, but I want these drops. Like, the game is about the drops. The game shouldn't be about managing your inventory. The fact there's an inventory limit just feels like an annoyance to make you have to go through extra loading screens. I think a lot of games run into this issue of thinking that inventory management is gameplay, and I mean, yes, in some cases you could say it is, especially if you're doing, say, like a survival horror where the fact you have a limited space is part of the challenge. But I think most games should just say, whatever, your inventory is infinite, and we'll hand wave the fact that you can put millions of tons worth of equipment into whatever this thing is. I mean, at least with like Ascent from Nine Mountains, we can frame it as it's a spatial ring. It's a pocket dimension that has infinite carrying capacity and nothing weighs anything. So you just shove everything you like in and you call it a day. But I don't think every game needs to care. Yeah. I mean, you can sort of argue various things, like the fact that maybe the limitation on what you can pull out has some sort of aspect to it. But really, it's so minor that it doesn't really make much of an impact. And it doesn't feel like it's got a core mechanic that makes it interesting. Like, more specifically, should I say, I think a good system either is, because the inventory management is difficult, it adds difficulty. That's fine. As I said, like survival horror, Resident Evil, stuff like that. The fact you can only carry so much is part of the mechanic. But on the other hand, if you're not doing it for challenge, it should have some positive aspect to it. Like, for example, Backpack Heroes, a fantastic game. The inventory is the game mechanic. You put things in your inventory and that's how you attack. They do things in the inventory. Or something where putting things in the inventory or managing inventory gives you bonuses of some kind. Something where it's not just a punishment, but something you actively want to interact with, rather than having to get around. That's what I'd like. I think would be good for people who want to have inventory management. Or just be like, just hand wave it. Who cares? Especially if you've put loads of effort into items, let people collect all the items. You know, they want to interact with your game. Obviously, it has some issues. For example, in the Ascent from Nine Mountains, people collecting 2,000 to 3,000 items suddenly makes the inventory lag. Fantastic. I'm glad that they were excited enough to pick up everything and hold on to it. I mean, to be fair, it is much faster these days. Let's see. Look at that. I mean, this is dev mode, of course. But at least it loads in a sensible time frame. Yeah, I mean, Path of Exile almost requiring loot filters is it's a decision. I do think it'd be better if they adjusted their drop frequencies to bias it towards stuff that actually matters, or just not dropping the trash. Would be maybe better, but then maybe it would feel like the game is a bit empty because you don't get enough stuff, even though most of it isn't worth picking up. I don't know. I'm assuming that they have done research internally to see if the experience is better if they just don't drop the trash at all. But I don't know. Maybe they are just so stuck in we are Diablo but modern that they've never really tried it. Who knows? I do think that Path of Exile and I guess, you know, the newer games like Diablo. God, are we on Diablo 4 now? Yeah, Diablo 4 is the new one, isn't it? Yeah. The loot seems to be mostly planned around the fact you can trade, which kind of makes it feel bad if you just want to solo play because you don't get good stuff. Or you get one good thing, and then the intention is you go and buy the other good things from other people, which I don't like as much. I'd much prefer to just get the good stuff myself and not have to interact with other people. But yeah, I don't even remember why we got onto this ramble of what makes good inventory. I think probably every game that I make, I would just toss out the idea of having any limits on the inventory and just allow you to pick up anything. Because, oh yeah, good point, tactile, yeah. Because yeah, I don't feel like anything that I would design I'd want to be using the inventory as a mechanic, other than just, this is where you store the stuff you aren't using. So yeah, you can at least rest happy knowing that I won't do it on whatever games that I make. Send from 9 Mountains 1 to 9, maybe. Finish it in the 3000s or something. Anyway, what we're doing? Oh yeah, we're trying to figure out where this thing comes from and how those numbers are generated. So, here is our lovely crafting slice state. This is how... So... I mean, this is obviously the big weirdness with the 7 from 9 Mountains. It is just a Electron app. So it does Electron things. Look, I would love a Xantia MMO that's actually good and not pay to win and not just grindy gacha crap. And if I have to make it, so be it. I mean, practically, on the trajectory that AI has been going, it might actually become viable to build the MMO that you want. The main issue is obviously getting players in, but you'd have to design around that. As long as you can do the game design portion, the building of it portion is actually feasible to run, to have AI do. Assuming you have enough baseline knowledge to guide in the right direction. Well, yes, but you can just do other things about it. You know, let's say we just have, you know, peer-to-peer networking or something along those lines with a very thin database. You throw out the idea of any kind of consistency, or you just do it off of your old cloud scaling. It's not as cheap, but you can probably run not maybe a massively multiplayer game, but just a multiplayer game off of some fairly cheap, like, Firebase credits. I guess it really depends on how many players you have. Like, so, Ascend from 9 Mountains, I dump a lot of analytics and stuff all into the servers. I have, obviously, the tournament stuff, the Patreon seals, all that kind of stuff runs off the databases. That's all in Google Cloud or through Firebase. It costs me like 30p a day, maybe less. And I have like 300 to 400 daily players. So, you know, of course, you could scale up a lot. Yeah. You'd have a lot of... you need to get enough, like a critical mass of players for it to be that kind of spiral of other people joining. But that's where you'd have to put your game design hat on, right? And you'd go in and go, well, feasibly, you're not going to be a massive multiplayer game. You know, you're not going to be a true MMO if you're a small company. But you can be a multiplayer game that has the potential to grow your player base. And then that is a slightly different game, but it would probably give most people the same experience that they're looking for. An Xantia, you know, adventure with your friends. You know, kind of like Where Winds Meet. Fantastically fun game. Xantia. I haven't played 33 Mortals. Is that something that is good? Is it fun? enough. I mean, like, personally, I'd like something like Guild Wars 2, Adventure, where or Final Fantasy, where the design is around small group content. Okay, like Guild Wars 2 obviously is a proper MMO and they design around massive group content, but generally it's best when there's maybe 10 people, 10 to 20 people in an area. Which probably isn't too bad. Yeah, exactly, something like that, where it is a small instanced area that ideally is not something where you're the person picking the instance. Group finding sucks. Like it's really disappointing when you're looking to play a game and you're sitting in a queue for like 50 minutes waiting for enough people to show up. It's best if the game does that under the hood for you as you play. You go to an area and it automatically instances you with other people. And then you never really notice that this is happening under the hood. It just feels like there are people around you, lots. That's, maybe one day this is something that I would go ahead and build. But I wish more games would do stuff like that. Yeah, the idea would be it's a single player game that then scales to small group content would be my ideal. And I feel I'm a big fan of Guild Wars 2. I mean, I haven't played it for years. I stopped playing around Heart of Thorns. But I think it's a fantastically fun game. And yes, there's been a Guild Wars 3 announced. We'll see if that's any good. I'd love more games like that. And Final Fantasy also does a similar thing where it's all about, like, at least the fun part for me was the world group content. So you just run around and be like, oh, there's a thing going on over here and there's people there and I'm going to join in with these random people and do a thing. That's exactly what I want out of my gameplay experience. And not many games do that, sadly. At least not the ones that I found. Right. Talking about this game before we design the future iterations of Ascend from Nine Mountains. Yeah, I don't know how much Guild Wars 2 is still played these days. It is very old now. I don't know what its community is like. I'm assuming it is just going to be a bunch of really high-level people doing endgame stuff, and the game is dead outside of that. But I don't know. If anyone has played it recently, maybe they can say. It was absolutely amazing on release. I played it on release weekend. Yeah, so here's a story from my life here. So release weekend, right? It was when I was going to see my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife. And I was like, girlfriend, I know I'm only seeing you at the weekend, but Guild Wars 2 is coming out this weekend. So you're going to come over to my place, and then I'm going to play Guild Wars 2. You can do something else. So yeah, I had a whole weekend. God, I don't even remember what she did. Evidently, I didn't put her off because she married me eventually. Oh, she doesn't like MMOs. Well, saying that, she didn't like MMOs then, but I have since got her into playing some things, and we're going to play Aeon 2 together when that comes out. Aeon 2 in September, right? Next month. Maybe Guild Wars 3 as well. We'll see how she gets on with Aeon 2. Been encouraging her to play more games, you know? It's been getting out of the Sims and Animal Crossing into more killing things rather than building things kind of playstyles. But anyway, there we go. Ramble, little life story from myself. On to building game things. So, Yeah, are they 6K end game players though? Because the game is pretty massive now. So if they're only in the end game zones, early game zones will be pretty barren, which would be a shame. But anyway, yeah, right. So gameplay stuff. So the way the game is structured, it uses Redux. For those of you who know anything about React, it uses Redux as the state management system specifically for the save game. So the Redux state is the save game that's saved on disk. The Redux state is split up into what are called slices. The slices are a section of the state that manages a certain portion of the gameplay. So if we hop over to here is the full set of slices that make up the state. As you can see, it's every single individual screen or individual mechanic has its own management. So if you look at, say, research, the research slice. Really? Okay, let's open the research slice manually because apparently the go-to implementation doesn't work. A slice has a block of data, and it has the reducers or functions that manipulate that data. So in here we have the ability to update the research, queue research, reorder, dequeue, essentially all of the UI interactions that do something to the state itself, and the bits that happen underneath the hood. So this is how we group all of the different pieces that make up the game, that make up the state of the game, should I say, into these slices. So when we want to have a look at the new crafting tournament slice, we want to look at the we want to look at how crafting tournaments work. We want to look at the slice, so we have the data and the actions. So this is what we're looking at here. This is the definition for all of the data that goes into the crafting tournament. So we have our tournament ID. That's fine. The judges probably needs to be removed. So this is obviously from that old version of it that I showed earlier. Here we go. That up there. This one. This is the old version for those of you who weren't there earlier, where you had this judge's bench here. So that probably needs changing to be, instead of being judges, to just be like targets or challenges or something along those lines that represents the thing that you're picking, which would be harmony for harmony crafting and a condition type for not harmony crafting, I guess. The phase, presumably tournament phase, is for the animation. Oh no, that's for the whole state machine, right? So we have the drawing of lots, the first intro. I don't know why we need these ones here, but these are the two that matter. The animation. I don't know why. This is a little bit overcomplicated. This is definitely something that we'd cut down a bit. It has probably a few too many individual steps here, because really what we have is it the player's turn? If yes or no. Or is it animating through everyone else's turn? Looping all around. Yeah, it will show you that it exists, but you won't be able to click it. So it will be grayed out. I think I might even have... Here you go. So this character here only knows these 4. So these other ones have this... I don't know if you can read this on screen. It says not yet learned. But yeah, it will tell you that they exist. You just can't click them. Now maybe we want to replace the name with like question marks or something. Something that stops it being quite so... It doesn't give away bits you may not know about yet. We don't want to give people spoilers. We want to tell people there's something they can find without maybe telling them what it is. Yeah, I mean, practically that would be probably a little bit overpowered if the tournament doesn't know about it, because obviously, like mechanically, what it does is it increases the multiplier if no one picks it, and if you're the only one who can pick it, you can always get the biggest multiplier. So most likely what we'll just do is have it be people could pick all of them. And it is implied that that there is no like stuff that's unique to the player. But hey, yeah, it's a bit, hand wavy. Technically there should be ones that only the player can find, like maybe, because we're talking about maybe adding one to expeditions. It's conceptually going to be challenging to say that other characters have found this thing that only the players piece together. So like, it's not that special anymore. But anyway, what were we doing? I was looking at... Yes, right, here we go. So the phases is just the state machine of the tournament itself. The order is once you've drawn the lots, things are sorted out. Yeah, there's a lot of overcomplicated bits here that maybe we should cut down by a lot. But yeah, anyway, it's going to be when there is when it's in the state of... Ah, yes, here's the different modes. Again, this is very outdated. I got it to rework it maybe like an hour ago, so it has still got loads of leftover bits from the old system just floating around. Yeah, there we go. Yep, yeah, you've both landed on the same thing at the same time, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that would be pretty cool, I have to say. I'm not against the idea. I think it would be an interesting thing to add, especially if there's unique dialogue and unique crowd responses to it. Yeah. Why not? Maybe we also want to change it so that it doesn't tick up. Maybe every harmony has like an absolute max that it is, and then as people pick it, they drop down over time. Maybe. The issue is with if there's too many sublimes, or too many harmonies, sorry, then there's always going to be something that is ticking up more than it is picked. Like, because there's only 8 contestants, so if there's more than 8, well, then yeah, at least one of them is going to be continually going up higher and higher. We don't want to have too much... I don't know, maybe it's fine. Maybe it doesn't really matter. I should stop overthinking it. Right, let's have a little look at how this works. God, this is... very overcomplicated. Oop, that's not the button I wanted. Crafting tournament engine. Fancy. Okay, bank turn is probably the stuff we want. That is a good idea. That is a great idea. Having known characters appear in the tournament as well would be great. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I mean, so for the reward idea, part of what we were talking about originally with like the tournament rework is the ability to impress someone. So the reward of the tournament isn't just the stated like prizes. it's being able to dazzle and amaze the onlookers to get the attention of some master or something. That is something we haven't really represented, because obviously mechanically it'd be pretty difficult to implement something like that, so that it feels that's something the player can interact with directly. But it would be something that would be cool. So the idea of amazing, bringing a new Sublime to the tournament and using it would then have some sort of quest afterwards, or some sort of action afterwards that reflects that you did that. I think all the harmonies... I don't think any harmonies are realm locked. I think everyone... It just requires you to go to the specific place and do the specific thing. There is nothing about a full mentorship being added. Oh right, Eccentric Decree, I think, is technically... No, I don't think that's realm locked. Alright, it does require going through Eccentric Long's quest, or ongoing arc. It may be that it's PC locked. I haven't checked the specific conditions that you need to meet to progress his story. Something we'd have to have a look at. But yeah, currently there isn't a PC version of the tournaments. I would like to add that. That would be pretty cool. Maybe we'll actually just shift all the tournaments up. So one of the things I've been struggling with is the other version of the crafting tournament, the condition type variant, because it is less easy to represent visually, because they don't have icons, they don't have any kind of indication on that. I think it's less fun as well, because mechanically this craft is almost the same, and there's only one result you can get out of it, which is you either succeed or you don't. Or just say you get perfect, or you just get normal, or you fail. There's not the range of stars that you get from Harmony. So maybe what we do is we throw away the crafting tournament at QC, and we make it core formation and pillar creation only, and we move the what's it called, the trophies up a realm. Yeah, I haven't looked at specifics of Eccentric Long for a long time. See. That is, he's all Grin's work, so I leave him to it. As you can see, Grin using his face as his profile picture. But yeah, there might be some things around, some adjustments we might want to make it not require being the higher realm and finishing his story arc. But yeah, we'll see. No rush on that front. So, we have ourselves... Yep. Yeah, we should only have one ad a stream, because it should be once every hour, and therefore... And I only stream for 2 hours, so I can just have one around the middle. So yes, sorry for those who aren't subscribed. I don't know if that's the state you need to be in. There will be a 30-second ad in 5 minutes. The minimum I can possibly make it. Yeah. We probably actually want it to be a real quest for Eccentric Long, so it isn't just random events. I mean, So a lot of the issue that comes about is people reading guides. The idea of Eccentric Long was a kind of character that you'd run into as you explore, that you aren't anticipating, you aren't building around. It's just like, ooh, what's this event? That's cool. However, and therefore, you aren't specifically trying to force it because you don't know it's there. Whether you read guides or you read the Discord and other people talking about it, then that's when you start to feel like, oh, I need to hit this event to get the reward. And that's where the whole grinding of attempting to trigger his events comes about, which isn't fun. So, what we originally intended, well, the idea wasn't that you'd know all the harmonies are there. It would just be oh, this is cool. Oh, I've unlocked a new harmony. That's awesome. I didn't know that this was here. Because it's kind of like you'll get it eventually. You just won't have the ability to force it on your time frame. Yeah. So the issue comes about if you know it's there and you want to force it, it's not easy to do. Yeah. So the original idea hasn't really paid off because of the fact that there's quite a large proportion of the player base. It's roughly a third of the player base are on are on Discord, and therefore are reading guides and learning like what the community think about it. So that's a fairly significant number of people who are looking to essentially 100% the game to get all of the powerful stuff. So yeah, there's something that we'd want to think about how we would address that, how we'd make it a bit more controllable. That maybe there is certain locations where he appears on the map and you can go and have a higher chance of triggering him. Or maybe he's like the Formation Master where you can see him travel around and his event has a very high chance of triggering if you're in the same location as him. But you can see him on the map. And that's how we control... We still make it limited, but if you know what you're doing, you have the ability to then go and make it a bit more likely by doing the thing. Going and exploring in the same place as him. I don't know. Well, we'll see. We'll see. It's something that we will need to play around with. Yep. Rank 1 placements in tournaments is something we do want to hook other things off. There's a lot of things now that we have these more complicated placement systems that we can then build. But yes, ad break in 5 seconds. I'm going to grab some water. I'll be back in 30 seconds. Perfect timing. I've returned, and I have water, and I'm no longer croaking anymore. Yep. I mean, it would really depend on what we want out of the eccentric long interactions. Because the original concept was this kind of mysterious master that you'd stumble across. So having him be more like a companion where you can actively seek it out does hurt that feel. So it's not something we'll change, like just blindly, because making it more controllable does take away some of the mystique, the mystery, the eccentric part of the eccentric long. So we'll see. I think there's definitely a need to make it more likely for him to trigger. Maybe we'll just have it be tied to a particular month or something. So if you are in the know, you can control the probability. But for new players, they won't notice that is modifying their chances. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, tying something to the tournament placement results would be really good. That is definitely a thing that would make tournaments feel more impactful. Yeah. He's just around. Yeah, we'll see where his story goes. We haven't yet fully fleshed that one out. But he is obviously a personal favourite character of one of the devs. So he will have cool stuff. So, okay, so the more I look at this code, I think it's complete rubbish. Like, it is such a mess. Most likely what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the lot of it and start again. But with the knowledge of where we want to go, so we can build it right the first time. So we can build it for where we want it to be, not have it be this kind of migrated thing of multiple different modes. So we definitely need some sort of pedestal or something to make these feel good. I'm also very tempted to just not have anything but harmony in the competition. So completely remove the idea of the condition type crafting. Just focus in on the only real tournaments. So this style is harmony. And then maybe we have the, when you come to the festival and you have the QC variant, it's not a tournament, it's a challenge, we'll say. And you get the trophy from that. It's just a very hard recipe. Like, extremely difficult recipe. And then the actual tournament is only for harmony once you have finished the path of sublime crafting, and it's core formation and pillar creation. And we do some fancy bits as well around, maybe we have the ability for someone to introduce a new harmony to the pool that is discovered by the player. Something along those lines, that'd be cool. Then also this disc here, if we... this one? Yep, so here is the A concept. Let me bring up some more. Maybe if I close this one? No? Not this one. Where's it gone? No. There we go. Okay, here we go. Here's another concept by our lovely Nana Banana. So it has this like really cool base plate effect, which could be something that we want to bring across. And these like swirly effects, they're quite similar to what we have for the formation puzzles, where we have this like background effect Maybe we can bring up one of those. Just load another character that is not doing anything important. You weapon slow. So these effects here, outside the edge of the formation panel, we could even include these effects here, where we have this very faint geometric pattern that sort of like sits in the background of the formation screen. That might be nice to give the area a bit more presence, I guess. This one is obviously a lot more visible with its wisps, but we can obviously make it a little bit more muted. I love these treasure chests, but I've got literally no use for them. But yeah, this sort of like base plate texture would be quite nice to include. Now let's see some others. That was terrible. That was terrible as well. That's the same one. That was nice. That was nice as well. Okay, let's see if I can switch this capture. Why can't I? Oh, OBS, not OBS. Streamlabs, why are you so complicated? I just want to change what you're capturing. Please let me. Maybe I need to add it as a new source. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Look at this. Here's another lovely concept. This one is, I think, is very cool, but would be probably mechanically difficult to implement. But this looks like a more physical object with this kind of like texture, this like stonework texture, and this lovely channels thing would look absolutely sick. And I love these steps around. If we were going to stick with this judge panel, this is probably the look I would go for, where we have this very much two-part competition area. We have the judge section with this this like pedestal area and the judge's bench, and you have the contestant section, which is this whole ring here. There's something similar where we cut off. We essentially extend this round. We get rid of the judge's bench. We put the stairs on the other side too. Could look quite nice as a alternative view. This one, yeah. I mean, this one is obviously the most, the easiest one to include. It is just a texture that overlays essentially the grey background of the tournament area. Now, what else do we have? We have. That was terrible. I guess this one, yeah. What are you all on about? What are you talking about? Let me read. Let me read the chat. Well, so mystery is important, but I think it's absolutely fine for it to be implemented in a way that the mystery is controllable for someone who is in the know. So, for example, having a chance in certain locations on certain dates for him to appear To the player, to the new player, it would be just as random and mysterious for him to appear. But if someone is in the know, they can know to go to those locations on those dates, and then they will find the character more easily, or be able to trigger that event more easily. And that would allow people who really want to have that control to control it. Which I think would be fine. It would help allow those who really want to force a particular action to occur to be able to do so, to get that experience. But for most, certainly for new players, they would still not know it exists, so not know to do it that. And they would just find him appear as he currently does. But yeah, in general, that's the kind of stuff we want to do, where most of the game is, I guess, visible. Like, it's either a quest or a character or something you can actively interact with on your own time. But we do want to also have some secret things, but they always have a condition. Like, for example, the altar in Shenhenda and the Rogue Trade Post. It has some conditions like having a certain amount of money and having a certain reputation and things like that. To the unknowing player, that could feel like they run into it randomly because they didn't know what conditions they fulfilled to unlock it. But then if you know what the conditions are, you can make sure that you go there with those conditions fulfilled, and then you can always trigger it. So you get that control if you have enough information about how it works to do the things it's looking for. That's like a general design methodology, I guess is what you call it. Philosophy, there we go. Around how we do things. There is very little that is purely random. And eccentric long is one of them. Most things that matter is conditional based. It's just if you don't know what the conditions are, it can feel random. Right, let's add this last window so you can see the last of the concepts that I generated. Nope, not that one. Not that one. That one, okay. Okay, here's the last of the concepts. It is this two-phase disc. It's the dark grey one before that we currently have, with this jade inner disc. And of course it currently has the judge's table arcing around here, which we wouldn't have. But potentially it's something that we can have be like an inner disc around here that would hold the conditions. Let me just fire ourselves back into the tournament. Here we go. So this here, this section could be the jade inner disc. Or maybe even like the raised part of it with the harmony types placed on top of the raised area. Something along those lines. I mean, to be honest, we could even mix them, right? You could have... Oh, I did not mean to do whatever I just did. That one there. What am I editing? There we go, put that on there, and... this one. Here we go. There you go, look at that. Beautiful. Stuff everywhere. Okay, so we have... Maybe we could even have the outer... like the jade disc from that top one. Then we have this kind of like background pattern of this outer ring with the little circles, essentially linking where the contestants are standing, and giving it a bit more visual dynamicness to it. And then obviously having this kind of... Wait, what's happened here? Why is there like a random cutout? That's random. Well, the issue with the judges is the art, right? The need to have the bench be long enough to fit all the judges on. And therefore it doesn't allow us to add more harmonies, it doesn't allow us to remove any, things like that. So that's why I moved to this view. Here, where it doesn't rely on a single asset that has the judges sat behind. It also makes it a bit more obvious how the game plays. Like this one here, for example. That's not even one I'm sharing. This one here, for example, has the player is here, so you know who you are. But beyond that, it's not really visible about what happens. I mean, yes, we could choose a random 7 harmonies. However, let's say a mod adds 7, and the player knows none of them. What do? He immediately stuck. Soft locked in the tournament. Yeah. I mean, okay, let's say who likes the judge view more than the contestant only view? That's 2. But yeah, the judge views are currently concepts, right? And so we don't currently have concepts for the contestant only view. Yeah, because I mean, part of it is the fact that what we have here is not concept art. It's just a basic implementation of animations and stuff. So yeah, it's something that we need to run through and figure out what visual assets we want to implement on the plate. You know, this area here with the harmonies would probably be like a raid section. I feel something along those lines. Yep, so wait. What do you mean picture 3? Which one's picture 3? We got top left, top right, and bottom left. Bottom left, right, yeah. Okay, which one's that? Bottom left is... one? Here we go, yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, I quite like this pattern on the disc. I think it looks really nice. And I like the background effects, which I think we do. And I do, however, really like this jade disc. I think this jade disc would look really cool to be in the center of that pattern. And then you clearly have the place the contestants stand versus the place that the harmonies are. And then you can see here, this is probably, these circles are where the contestants would be, all the way around the outer edge, with this line linking them. Potentially. Like, obviously we're not at a point where this is locked in. Because what you could do is just have this sort of like crowd of contestants, have the player always go first, and then have all the others animate from left to right, just like and they get their points. So we go back to this sort of like picking system where you can see what stuff has been picked a lot and what stuff hasn't. Try and influence the weighting. Potentially. I really am not sure. As I mentioned at the start, I've only gone back on to work on this today, so I haven't had a full time to think about what is the best experience. Okay, have a bunch of desks ordered in a semi-grid on the left, and have a group of judges on the right. In the left 2/3. Okay, so the judges are here, and then you have essentially this area here as the contestant area. Look, if you can find some like some pages of crafting tournaments in Manraz, please do send them, because I would love to have more ideas of what to do. Yeah, the reason that I added the disc is because there is otherwise not really much that we can do to make it feel like you're not just floating in a vast expanse of nothingness. So the disc is there to anchor the visuals. If you just have them free floating, it does feel quite weird. Like they just looks odd. I mean, in the normal tournaments, you have those massive, stone bracket images, which is what links the different images for the contestants and gives them a grounded space of where they exist. Obviously, having like a bracket-based thing in this tournament would be challenging. Or we just throw away this concept completely, and we have it be bracket based, and we say, complete pivot. We go for the tournament approach, like the one-on-one tournament approach with the brackets, like in the normal tournaments. Now, your opponent is the one that crafts first. They will get a point score, which is randomly generated in some fashion. And we have the weightings of what harmonies are considered good or not for that tournament. So we have the weightings just kind of maybe attached to the bracket. Then the player will be able to see what star threshold they need to get on each harmony to be able to win that one. So they know what they need to get. They need to get maybe 6 stars on the scribe patterns or 10 stars on spiritual resonance. And then it's an actual head-to-head, and you just have to win your things. That might be just better. It's an actual tournament. It's something that we could link to the existing tournament system and have it be configurable. So rounds are you can choose, so the person making the tournament can define what round is what type of thing, and you can say maybe this tournament has 2 combat rounds followed by 2 crafting rounds followed by a different, a debate round or something, I don't know. Okay, okay. I'm liking this idea. This is sounding a little bit more. Let me just bring one up so we can have a visual. Yang Ma. Oh, actually no, Ryota Yamato. You're in the Shenhender tournament. Here we go. Right, let me just quickly bring up this concept before I... Oh yeah, good lord. That concept would be so hard to implement visually. But yeah, that it's kind of like an amphitheater kind of challenge thing, yeah. So here, you'd have some sort of indication of the points you need here for your opponent. And maybe up here, you have a bar which says like the different, how much each harmony is considered, what's it called? I mean, how much it's of value is, right? And then you would, when you click the craft button, it would show you the threshold needed on each harmony. You select the one. If you manage to do it, you pass, you go to the next round, and the quality that your opponent crafts will just increase as you go up. We wouldn't have 5 rounds because crafting is a lot longer, obviously. You'd probably just have 3, like quarter, semi-final. And so the final would most likely require you to get a 10-star craft or something along those lines. It would allow us to reuse the same visuals for the tournament and the same overall same overall flow. It would just be a different mechanic for how the matchup works, which would make my life easier, implementation-wise. We wouldn't need any new UI or new visuals. And then maybe we leave the free-for-all thing for a future one. It would be cool to be able to have a variety of different matchup types, so we can do tournaments that have different requirements. So you can have, as I said, the sort of like mixed combat crafting, but we can also try to be more exciting about it. There's other things in as well. When we have other mechanics, maybe we can throw them in. Maybe it's a stone gambling round, and whoever gets the best stones does well. Or there's an auction round where you have to buy the most stuff. Things like that. Yeah. We do need some stuff in the higher level realms. Yeah. I would love there to be a lot more variety in the tournaments, because I think tournaments are really cool. And I absolutely love this crowd thing, and I just want to have this on screen all the time. That's a good idea. That can be in the R18 DLC when we finally make it. Cool. Well, full pivot it is then. Obviously, the crowd dialogue would also have to reflect the tournament configuration, but that's fine. That's doable. I mean, a lot of the like the generic chatter would still apply for a crafting tournament, because it tends to be more about the fact it's a matchup rather than the fact that it's a combat matchup. So most of this would still we could reuse. Obviously, this one here that just came up, the whole thing about Blossom Adept, that obviously wouldn't be there unless it had combat portions. But yeah, most of it would be fine. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. And then, of course, we get this stuff by default because it's already hooked up. As you can see here, we have some very cool random items, like this fairly strong mount, a damage mount. Everyone loves those. Every 5 rounds, deal tons of damage. Like tons. I'm sure you can do some crazy builds with this thing. And if, for those of you who don't know, this can be made into stat pills. So, get in that tournament. That's a very cool idea. So, along those lines, what should be the between round buff thing? Should it be just based on what you craft? Or maybe the harmony has the buff associated with it? So each harmony gives you some sort of buff, and that's what you get when you finish each round with that harmony. And it has both a crafting and a combat result, so it applies for both. Then for the for the mixed tournament, maybe it's 2 rounds of crafting and then 3 rounds of tournament. Oh, I see what you mean. So maybe it's a 2-phase picker. You pick the pill, so the recipe, and you pick the harmony. And you then get that pill afterwards. That's something we could apply to crafting tournaments too. So you pre-pick the reward you're going to get between rounds. Yeah, there's some really cool things we could do with that. So the mixed one would probably be first applied for the sect promotion. So for the sect system, to become an inner disciple or a core disciple, it would be a tournament. So it would be a mixed one, right? It'd have crafting and combat. The original idea was to have that be 2 separate tournaments. So you do one tournament, do the second, but it's much better if we can mix the 2 together and have them both run at the same time. So run as in one flow. So yeah, I'm liking this a lot more. Let's toss away everything that I've done so far, and we'll start from scratch. Craft fight, yeah. So how would... I guess what we'd do is we'd flesh out the between round buff to be a pill. So instead of it being pick a buff, it's pick a pill. And that pill gives you the buff. And those are the same pills you see in the crafting screen when you pick which one to craft. So instead of being given one, you craft it yourself. And then they are like linked conceptually. And maybe even... yeah. I mean, that would just work, right? And then for the mixed tournaments, when finishing a combat one, you get a pick of the full set. Maybe the rewards aren't combat crafting, you know, the opposite one. Essentially, you have 2 rows. You have combat buffs and you have crafting buffs, and you can pick... But you can only pick one. So you can just choose to only pick crafting stuff the whole way through. To really buff up your crafting if you're confident about your combat. Or you can alternate, or you can do someone and the other. but they are specifically, essentially, a pool of different pills that you can then take or craft. I really like that. Well, yes, in a respect, because to get high in the world, to actually progress to the higher realms, you can't rely on other people, because there aren't people who can make world-shaping pills or inner genesis pills. So the only person who's going to ascend is someone who can then make their stuff too. So it's not like everyone in the world can do both, but the people who excel are the ones who can do both. And that's why the Nine Mountains sect favours that, is people who can both supply their own stuff and also, it's the two pillars that they promote, that they think that is the making of any good cultivator. But of course, people will have their focuses, their biases, but it's expected that everyone can do both. Just they may not be, they may be better at one or the other. But yeah, it's not quite like in most stories where you have to dedicate your whole life to being like an alchemist, and that is what you are. You are only an alchemist, because there's not that many people in the world for you to rely on other, like a large alchemy organization to make your stuff for you. Yeah, actually, perfect timing talking about the cosmology. Yeah, like a tournament type where you are fighting monsters as well. The whole like hunting tournaments would be kind of cool. Building it in as a round would be nice. Yeah. The Jade Serpent is definitely one of the more... I guess, actually, I take that back. Every sect in the game, the 5 different sects, all have their own unique thing. So they all have something that they build their sect around. So, for example, the Heavenly Sword, the expeditions and what is found within is like the core thing about their sect. Everything that they do is built around the power they get from those. Nine Mountains sect is about the Nine Mountains, about all the resources and the power and the key and everything they can get from those Nine Mountains, and everything is shaped by that. And the Jade Serpent is all about the bloom, the Jade Mine, the Yumai Mine, sorry, and by its an extension, the forest. Now, the other sects that we haven't made visible are the one down to the south and the one all the way to the west. But they, again, have their own things, like the... there aren't bloom techniques, exactly. So, no. Now, the bloom is very different to the shadow sickness. That is its own thing. Which, if you play LF and you go down to the mine, you'll be able to find out more about what the shadow sickness really is and why there are techniques. Now, the Jade Bloom is its own thing. It is, even though it is mechanically similar in the game, as in like you go to a mine, you get the thing, it is actually lore-wise fairly different in why it exists. Now, the Jade Bloom lore is not currently in the game. It is in my lore documents. It is to be written into some quests and events and things that you will discover. But for now, you can't actually see that. That is to be revealed. But you can find out stuff about the Shadow Sickness, and it is different, yeah. Yeah, having roguelike modes where you do things like that. So, who wants a little hint of what I would like to build in a future realm? There we go. A no then. But yeah, having a variety of different tournament types that allow you to do things. Well, having a longer tournament which is more, I guess, implied to be going out into the world and doing things and then coming back together again would be very cool. And that's part of what we're talking about with the points-based, hunt-based one. It would be cool to have that kind of going out, finding the really strong spirit beast, slaying it, getting resources from it, and doing stuff like that. But that might be something that we build in as part of the sect system. Having that kind of intersect competition that is less about fighting each other and more about showing their prowess against one another by doing a thing that isn't just fighting. That isn't just one-on-one combat. But that is something that we can sort of really flesh out when we start designing the sect system, which would hopefully be the next thing after tournaments are done. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, there isn't just duels, because it's quite easy for everything to just to devolve to just the one-on-one. And that's not enough variety for me. I want even more mechanics and even more mini-games and even more stuff to do. Because I never want to finish this game, apparently. I want it to be the biggest game anyone who's in the genre has ever played. Especially because we've got 3 more whole realms to build. And the next one is just me building an entire full copy of Civ. Yep. Apparently not. Yeah, we'll see. Obviously, so I have these massive ambitions of what I would love to do. Practically, I'm not going to be able to do them all because there's only so much time, and I've only got so much money, and I've only got so much development effort to spend. So I have to be a little bit less ambitious than I would like to be. However, all of those ideas can sit in my back pocket for a sequel. That's the big one. The idea would be, once the game is at a point where we're happy with how it feels, we can then start to wrap up the game and then start again from a clean slate, maybe in a game engine. I know, shock horror. With proper planning for what art we want and things like that. I would love to have some 3D. Like a isometric 3D. Make it feel a bit more exciting to watch, stuff like that. These are all the things I would love to do for a sequel. Obviously, that's years down the line, because the next few realms are probably going to take, I would say, probably 2 years, maybe, depending on how fast and how many more details I go on, and how many more people help. And then, of course, we want to build some DLC and do some more stuff, and so it's only after that we'd look at starting work on a sequel. So it's long-term stuff. But for now, anything that I feel would give the game more depth without it being bloated, I will add. That's why tournaments, obviously, such a core aspect of the game, or of the genre, should I say. That's why those got the love. The sex system, which has been just teased and teased and teased. Again, something that we'd really want to have be a core part of the experience. That's why that's been pushed up the thing. And most of the other stuff will probably get pushed back in favour of building the next realms. Look, that's the DLC. A full-on sex system. I mean, we do have the dual cultivation system, which also needs love. It is a bit bare bones at the moment, and it isn't as exciting as it should be. Exactly, yeah. There is... Look, I have always said I would love to make a full R18 DLC where you have all the art you like, 18 plus, walled in Steam. Because, hey, look, you have spent a lot of time investing in the companions and their stories and everything, and you want to take their clothes off. There we go. You know, that is the reality of you got a bit Bond. So I would love to do it. If whether or not it's feasible, obviously a lot of that comes down to the restrictions on what you can do and what the specific rules and regulations are. We'll see. And I think also it will depend on getting a solid artist, because I don't think I could get what I want out of the current AI models. But that is down the lines. As you've seen, we are looking for an artist at the moment. So hopefully maybe we'll get some applications and bring someone on who's going to help us with fleshing out the art in a more controlled manner, so we can actually get the things we want rather than being restricted with what we can get out of the AI models. Or the AI landscape will improve. There has been some really cool improvements recently. There's some new models. I've heard Anima is really good. I've heard the new Kriya model is really good. So that's on my list at some point to do some experimentation. Yeah. There is a bunch of annoying laws and things that need to be looked into. I just noticed I'm covering up the chat on stream. There we go. There's a bunch of laws about what you can and can't do in the UK as well. What you're allowed to make. So there is going to be, if we do decide to build that as an official part of Ascend from Nine Mountains, it will need to have a variety of... I'll need to be quite careful to do my research before I build it. Otherwise, it'll be an unofficial DLC on a separate Patreon or some other site, like DL site or something, where you can get it and load it in as a mod. Because I'd love to build it, but just whether or not it can be part of like Steam as a DLC or not, I don't know. I think looking at Steam, it is designed... They say that you can have a base game and separate rated content, and the ratings apply to the DLC specifically, not to the overall product. So only that DLC is then region restricted and things like that. That's what they claim. If it works that way, I don't know, because Steam docs are really bad, sadly. So there's a variety of research required. And that just goes for a lot of the content. You know, like if I want to build something that is then available in China, it is going to cause some restrictions on what I can and can't do for that version of the game. So there is region-specific restrictions that will need to be taken into account, given I want this to be, you know, like a global product, not in the way that, you know, like it's a massive thing, but more, I want everyone to be able to enjoy it who would be interested. And obviously China's a big market that ideally I'd get. I haven't a clue. I have not seen... I think they only have like one English DLC, and that's... No, I think they have the... like the female companions DLC, right? But hey, look, it's been a while since I've looked at Hell of Immortal. Yeah, there's a lot of mods. And look, I'm really disappointed. The mods are very tame. Come on, people. Where's the effort? Where's the quality art overhauls? I'm looking forward to what people come up with. But yeah, there's that's one of the... Sorry, slightly similar note. One of the things that I want to do with an artist is to review the art style and potentially tweak it. Maybe remove some of the chibiness, maybe change how the painterliness is, something along those lines. That is part of what we'll be asking an artist to do, is help to shape the visual direction, not just make more content for the existing direction. Yeah, a lot of it depends on what I can get out of the models and what I can get out of people, and you know, who is interested in working on this. But yes, anyway, so Alchemy tournaments. Full pivot from what I was working on to building it into this screen directly. We will have essentially a threshold-based system that goes down. What did the maker look like? Oh, it's been a while. The maker? Is that a T? Should I just call him Maker? M-A? Where is this guy? Where's this art? Oh, here we go. Found him. Let's put him on screen. One second, let me just... There we go. Here he be. So he's the output of the new model. One of the new models. Sorry. So a lot of the characters are pretty much anything before Life Flourishing is the old models. And all the stuff made after Life Flourishing, so anything made in the last 2 months, give or take, is done with the new models. And it is definitely an improvement. It's definitely a significant improvement. But it's still a bit... You can tell how the art style is a bit closer to the AI style. That I don't really like. There is a plasticity to the outlines and also corruption. You can see, like, we go all the way in, you can see like the corruption here. Actually, wait, there you go, there's my mouse. You can see the corruption here, and also around here. This is stuff that is a result of the, I guess, the inbuilt biases of the model. So what we'd be wanting to do is to take these cleaned art then take a new model, like, as I said, Anima or Kriya, and train it on the improved art style to try and push it away from the I don't know, the slop, I guess is what people will call it, or the style that is baked in from the like novel AI history that a lot of these models are still bringing in, is that novel AI, I guess, digital art, high quality illustration, art station style, I guess you could call it. So yeah, this is how characters now look from the new models, but it's still not quite what I want. I think we can get better by one of two things: either building on the new models, or an artist. But the artist would be helping us build on new models, because an artist would be both doing art and also shaping the pipeline for stuff that doesn't need a human to draw it. So there's a lot of stuff here which does not require, a full quality piece of art. It just requires someone to make something that's good enough in as short a time as possible. And also, and this is a core thing that I think we have gotten that a lot of games don't, is the ability for the community to make their own art. The fact that I can share the models and be like, hey look, even if you don't have a massive budget and the ability to draw and all this time in the world, you can make your unique character that is exactly what you want, that no one else in the world has. It's essentially full character creation, but one that is actually unique, and it's not just 5 different assets clipped together like most character creation is. I think that's really cool, and I think obviously at the moment the barrier of entry is a bit challenging because the tools are a bit annoying to set up, but the fact that people can do that at all, I think is awesome. And I'd love for that to keep having that, so that people can, let their imagination shine through and make something that's truly theirs. So I think that will always be something we want to enable as a baseline of, this is like the art quality level that we want. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of really good improvements on the AI side for making things that are less, that have a less defined art style, and they are more down the lines of being able to be prompted and actually follow what you want. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Obviously, I'm always trying to stay on top of the developments, but they're flying ahead of me faster than I can keep up. And it will always be a prototyping tool. So, conceptually, the flow would be, if we had an artist full-time, devs build something, would they use AI to prototype out the rough characters, images, items, and things like that. Anything that is, I guess, highly user-facing, so a character which is full screen, would probably either need to be cleaned via a human artist or redrawn via a human artist, based on the concept that the designer or the developer built. That will then have but that would then not need to apply to everything. So, for example, a background character that looks, just a grayscale thing that is kind of irrelevant, does not need a human to redraw it. They are essentially fully generic. Who cares? Have them be the AI variant, leave it, call it a day. Also things like items, where they're rendered at roughly maybe 64 by 64 pixels. No one's going to see the details. They just need to have assets, but the specifics of those assets are kind of irrelevant. So we don't need a human to redraw those, they are good enough. Backgrounds, however, that would probably need a human to clean it up. So there's a variety of layers where AI will probably still have a place, because there is not really any benefit to a human fixing it, I guess. Of course, there are some items and things like that where humans should fix it too, but it would be the minority rather than majority. And I think this flow is most likely where the industry is going. Obviously, I haven't worked in a full games company for quite a while, and certainly when I worked in it, AI was not even on the radar. But I'm going to assume this is roughly how they work. Is AI is part of the development process, and it will most likely, depending on the quality, stay part of the final product as well. But all that means is that the scope of the game can increase. Because look, and this is where I think a lot of the sentiment maybe I think is misguided. Every game that I've worked on, professionally or personally, the concepts are always bigger than the ability to implement them. And every company is the same. Every designer designing the game has always got bigger ambitions than they have a dev team to implement. And so what they do is they cut things. Because look, if your game requires 5,000 assets, then and you only have 2 artists, then you have to cut the game by maybe down to 1,000 assets. But hey, if you can use AI for part of it and just use the artists on the bits that matter, you can keep that scope. Maybe you can even increase the scope. And I think a lot of games will find that, because game development costs at the moment are just insane. Like, the cost to build anything is just astronomical. And that's why budgets are so massive, and that's why game companies keep getting less and less risk tolerant and keep making more generic games. Now, if that cost gets reduced through AI, their ability to take risks, to make bigger things, to be more ambitious increases. Now, of course, that won't apply to every company. Some companies, EA, going to point a finger at you, will immediately try to cut costs by firing people and making the same scope game. But I think that's a minority in the scope of the whole industry. Most games companies run because they are a bunch of passionate people who are doing games because that's what they want to do. And the idea of cutting anything is like physically repulsive to them. So they will just go, okay, now that we can build more with AI, then we'll just build bigger games. We'll build that big concept. You know, like, we want to build the massive MMO. Well, great, now we can just do it because, hey, look, our artists can make 10 times the work, so we can produce 10 times the game. Brilliant. That's where it will go. At the moment, AI isn't quite there because the models are still too difficult to work with for that level of thing. But that's something which a lot of companies, I bet, will be researching. As you said, like, FromSoft has been probably playing around with it. Most likely, every company is playing around with it. Yes, enterprise level AI is insanely expensive if you use enterprise AI, because most of the good AI is not a contract with Claude. Like, it's great and all to have a contract with Claude and get Claude code or whatever, but mostly you can just get as good with smaller models. Go deploy DeepSeek or something. For art, it would be deploying art models are really small. All of the the standard used ones are really small, and that is all runnable on a single GPU. So there is no need to have these super expensive contracts, and that is where most of the value will be coming. Most of the big models, they are very pricey, of course. But I don't think I would be surprised if that's where all the research is going, especially in the gaming industry, around asset creation. Obviously coding and stuff like that, that is already done deal. Everyone is just using AI to make code, and the cost of those is already really low. Well, yeah, that's only if you are doing, if you're paying the big companies. Yeah, this is what I found when I was, before I quit to become a game dev. I was principal AI engineer for a company, implementing AI throughout. Using... And I've been, a principal senior for quite a long time. Working with AI is almost identical to working with junior staff or contractors. It will do what you say, you need to review what it does, you need to give it clear instructions, and you need to know when to redirect it if it's going in the wrong direction. So I think a lot of people who say it's really frustrating to work with AI haven't ever been in a position where the most of their responsibility is reviewing other people's work. Because if you've done that, you'll find that AI is just exactly the same as all those other people. They work the same, they have the same mistakes, and the same things you do with them is what you do with AI. Yep, exactly. just like working with junior staff. And on that fun thing, I'm gonna call it there. Okay, last question then. The demographic collapse is bad. Like, legitimately. The amount of entry-level jobs for software has really decreased, and it's going to hit the industry hard. Now, I know in the companies that I still have contact with, that I have friends at, I know that they have not reduced it because they have enough engineering staff to know they need the influx of lower level juniors, because they want to train them to be good engineers for their company. However, a lot of companies where they view engineers as a cost center rather than as their business will cut their engineers, and there will be a massive drop in jobs for the engineering staff. That will mean there are less applicants for those roles. They will potentially then shift to hiring from places like India, which is obviously massive for engineers. And it would be just like the classic outsourcing everything problem that we run into a lot here. But I think it will just turn back round, because obviously a smaller number of roles will mean that the value of each individual one goes up. People will be asking for more salaries. That will then encourage companies to reduce the seniority of their roles to try and cut costs too. And eventually it will rebound as companies then shift their seniorities down to also reduce salaries, and then finally reopen the junior levels. But obviously there will be a lot of companies that realize their business, so companies that are software companies will realize their business is having people trained on their tech stack, and bringing people in at a cheap junior level is the best way to get that, because they tend to stick around, especially if you treat them right. Now, a lot of companies don't, but a lot of other companies do try to invest in that as their talent pipeline. But yeah, there is going to be a really tough bit of time, probably a good 5 years, where there is just a complete lack of them. It's going to be tough. Like, AI is flying ahead, and if it doesn't cause an apocalypse because it fully goes off the rails, it will cause a massive job crash, and it will affect a ton of industries, and we will have to figure out what we're going to do as a as a planet. You know, we can't have any individual country try to take it on. It needs to be a collective effort across every country, because once AI is good enough, it kind of makes a lot of stuff obsolete. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, China's on the right front with the fact they've actually tried to legislate around how AI can be implemented and used. So maybe the West needs to actually see what China's been doing and learn a thing or two. But hey, we're not a politics stream here. And with that fun note, I will go. Thank you all for coming as usual. And yeah, I guess I'll speak to you all next Monday. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. If you want to join us on the Discord, if you aren't already, do so. We'll actually have talk about the game and not random rambles by me. And yeah, beyond that, have a fantastic day. Till next time, bye bye.